You know, when you've invested all your emotions in believing that the world was flat and all of a sudden you find out, whoa, it's round. You know, that can literally send your emotions spinning out of control. Let's find out how to soothe your emotions in the midst of chaos.
Life is not about you living in the past. It's not about you living in fear. It's about your dreams. It's about what you believe. Life is about you choosing your future.
Lessons for the future begin here.
Hey, welcome to the Choosing Your Future podcast. This is episode 022, episode 22, The Mass Murder of Truth, part 3. And today we're going to talk about how to deal with your emotions. You know, you've invested in this thing that you felt and you feel is right, and then all of a sudden you find out it's not right. So we're going to talk about how to keep your emotions calm in trying to find the real truth of the matter. Before we get started, hey, check out choosingyourfuture.org. Also, check out our social media pages. There's if you go to the website, there's the blog there. There's a lot of video content there. There's also a store where you can pretty much get anything. We even got stuff for dogs. I'm a huge dog lover, big dog lover. As a matter of fact, you'll find some dog videos on there as well. So anyway, check it out. And if you like it, let us know. Email us, put a comment on there, and let us know how you're liking the podcast. And we thank you for listening, by the way. Really appreciate it. Let's just jump into this thing because, you know, there's so many people that when the thing about feelings and you know, when you have feelings and emotions, that's a lot of investment from your life. Okay. And when we have a feeling of something, that's why when those feelings are found to be wrong, or when they are found to, or when we get hurt by something, it's all that investment that we put our life, you know, it hurts. It sends us spinning. It puts us in a chaotic mode. You know, last time, on the last episode, we talked about, how Proverbs says, buy the truth, sell it not, don't exchange it. Make the right investments. When you've bought the truth emotionally, don't change it. And it also says by wisdom, instruction, and understanding. That's the whole concept of being able to handle the truth. And we talked about some of the warning signs, and I'm just going to run through them real quickly. How to tell if you're emotionally driven versus truth driven. You know, you say if you're real high strung emotionally into and not believing the truth. Now remember, emotions can be a good thing. It's when that's what gives us a lot of drive and passion. But when emotions start ignoring truth, logic, and reasoning, that's when we have an issue. And, you know, you hear people say things, well, you don't care about the facts. You know, I don't care what the facts say. This is what I feel. That's a warning sign. Okay. You're not being teachable. Another one is, you know, when your emotions are confronted with truth, there's a defensive mechanism that happens, and people will say things, well, you're just full of hate, or, you know, you're just not loving, you're not tolerant. No, that has nothing to do with that. I love you. That's why I'm telling you the truth. And, you know, you could tell somebody who really cares about you is how they tell you the truth. They're not like, you know, trying to beat you over the head with it, but they're trying to reason. I mean, even the Bible says, God says to people, come, let us reason together. And so, you know, there's this reasoning that's I'm trying to get you to understand something. But when that defensive mechanism starts happening, well, you know, you're just, you know, no. I've always said this. I've told people this for years. Love doesn't let you have your way. It confronts your way. If, you know, I have a son. He's a great kid. He's not a kid anymore. He's a 20-year-old man. But, you know, if I truly loved him, I wouldn't let him do dumb things that he feels like he wants to do. Let me give an example. He could have a lot of emotions invested in something that could hurt him. I would not be a good parent if I didn't tell him the truth about that. His life would be short-lived. And the whole goal is to live your life as long as you can, to accomplish as much as you can, fulfill your purpose, and you know, make your future right. And so sometimes, truth is a hard thing to swallow. It can be bitter sometimes because emotions, it's kind of like eating cake all the time. This is what I feel. This is what I feel. I want the cake. I want the cotton candy, Snickers, whatever your deal is. Truth sometimes is kind of like the broccoli of life. And I like broccoli, but let's face it, it's not as good as cake. It's just kind of hard to swallow sometimes because the cake is so much easier to taste. And broccoli, it's good for you. Cake's not all the time. And so sometimes truth is really hard for us to swallow. We don't like it. And we've got so much emotion invested in the cake things of life or the sweets of life. And sometimes you get a habit of doing that. And what's dangerous about this, you start being resistant to logic and reasoning, and you quit listening. Your ears are closed. Your eyes are shut. You don't want to see it. Kind of like, what's his name, Schultz on Hogan's Heroes. I see nothing. I see nothing. It's right there in front of him, but he chooses to keep his eyes shut. Your mind is closed. You're not open. You're not teachable. And the dangers of this is it leads to a hardened heart eventually, to where, the truth will always bounce off of you. And only humility can solve that. And so that's kind of where we left off. I want to share a couple of quotes with you. One is by Mitgarv Happening, and it says this: "Bear the truth even if it is bitter, or bear the truth even if it be bitter." Here's another one by Kotzker Rabbi. "Everything can be imitated except truth. For imitated truth is no longer truth." Sometimes our feelings have a way of imitating the truth. We believe it so strongly. We want to feel it so strongly. It's kind of like the earth is flat. I just know it is. But when we find out it's round, it's not the truth. The earth is not flat anymore. Those feelings have to change. That logic has to change. All that has to change once we come in contact with the truth. It's round. Now, the problem sometimes with people that have their emotions so invested, in something. I find that people have their emotions invested strongly in very few areas. One is relationships. 2, religion. 3, politics, especially in this day and age. And so let's kind of look at this for a moment, because sometimes we don't want to believe the truth about family and religion and politics, etc. And the reasons are that our emotions are tangled in with family matters, and the danger can lead to enabling people and their bad behaviors. Let me give you a classic example. Let's say, you've got a child that has issues with managing their money. So what do? You keep bailing them out. And what your emotions are involved, you think you're actually helping this person, but the truth of the matter is you're enabling them to continue to make bad decisions. And what's going to happen as parents when we're dead and gone? Who's going to help them then? See, sometimes our emotions, we think we're helping people, but actually what we're doing is ignoring the truth of responsibility and discipline. We're ignoring the facts that if we don't teach our children how to do something for their future, what we're doing is, and see, what we have a tendency to do is we say, well, they just need it. Or we don't want to upset them. God forbid we upset them. Let the temper tantrums rule our world instead of us creating a world. Because sometimes children create a world for us instead of us creating a world for our children. And what begins to happen is they begin to run that world if they've created it. Now the whole house is in chaos. You know, sometimes saying no is the best truth. And the emotions may run amok. But you've got to deal with it now, because when we're dead and gone as parents, what they've learned from us and how they've learned it is affecting their future. You know, you look at issues with constantly giving money to children without the concept of earning money. We call it being spoiled. That all started with emotionalism and denying truth, believe it or not, because we didn't want to hurt. We wanted them to have better than what we had, whatever the case may be. But actually what's happening over the process of time, they are being destroyed because they don't know the truth. And then when somebody says, hey, it's time for you to get a job, it's kind of hard thing to handle. You look at people with politics today. Oh, man. We've got division. I mean, you got family members that can't even talk to one another because this is what I feel. This is what I feel. And what happens is we start believing the media and we start believing this thing, and there's no real facts to a lot of what people are saying. I mean, there's a lot of things in the media has been proven wrong. And you know, it creates a state of lawlessness. And like I said in the last episode, when you start letting emotions go crazy and you deny logic and reasoning and truth and facts, and what begins to happen, and we find ourselves in a state of lawlessness as a society. And what begins to happen then, there is a constant breakdown of everything. Let's look at religion. There's some people that are so invested in religion emotionally that they're denying the truth of what scriptures may say. You know, we've always heard this. Well, you know, the Bible says God works in mysterious ways. Guess what? That ain't even in the Bible. But there's people that are so invested in that, they'll argue with it. Yes, it is. I've read it. Well, how did you read it when it's not there? Because I just know it. The Lord works in mysterious ways. His wonders to perform. It's in there. I know it's in there. And then they go and look, and guess what? It's not in there. Some of you are probably shocked. See, the thing about it is, you can be invested emotionally in so many things that when you find out the truth of something, it starts really changing your whole way of life. You're like, oh my gosh, I thought this was the way it was. But that's not the way it is. And now, because you've been so emotionally invested in these things, you have a tendency to be angry. You're really not angry at the truth. The truth of the matter is you're probably a little more angry at yourself if we want to be honest. How did I believe that? It's kind of like an embarrassment. It's kind of like a shame we put on ourselves. That's why humility is so important. Proverbs 2 talks about this. It says, when wisdom comes into your heart and knowledge shall be pleasant to your soul, thought shall watch over you, discretion shall guard you, to save you from the evil way, from a man who speaks perversity. What that's saying is when we accept knowledge and wisdom in our life, when we start believing the truth, not just our feelings, the real truth. Truth watches over us. It protects us from all the crazy things that are being said. You know, patience is willing to wait for the truth. But feelings and emotions, they rush to judgment every time. Choose your future wisely. Be patient for the truth so it can watch over you.
Thank you for listening to the Choosing Your Future podcast. For more information, please visit choosingyourfuture.org. That's choosingyourfuture.org.